Before I call up the other two panelists, I would just like to say this. Selma, a great woman, a woman of no color. Maybe you see Selma as white. I see Selma as no race. And the thing is, after becoming involved with Selma, it changed our lives at Red Thread. It made us think more political. And I used to say we're not political enough. And we used to say, well, if we're political enough, then what? But coming to the international gathering and mixing among people like Didi and Sean and the rest who I stayed with, Nina and the rest, when I go back home and we were having a revaluation, I said, man, these women sleep, eat, and drink politics. Why am I saying this? At the lunch table, it's politics. We going home in the car, it's politics. We walking on the pave to drop Sean's son to school, it's politics. So it really changed us and strengthened us.
I'm really pleased to introduce Xu Mei, who's the first panelist to speak. She is from China. She was a farmer in China, and she's now studying English here in England. And she's going to speak to us about climate change and what the impact has been on her family and on the family farm.
I'm Xu Mei. I come from China, and I want to introduce the farmers' condition in China and some climate change. Okay. I'm a farmer from Chinese village where we grow cotton. New roads and factories are being built there. Farmers are owning their land less and less. As a farmers, and land is their whole life. Even though the government has paid them some money, the farmers feel insecure about their future. Recently, the government has planned to destroy all the houses of villages and build skyscrapers to force people to leave their house. And in this way, they want to save land for new industry. So far, only 2 villages have moved to the huge buildings. The rest of villagers are protesting the plan. My mother has told me that when the government worker went to my house to measure, she felt scared. We have big houses to store agriculture tools and wheat and corn that we have planted. We have a huge yard to plant all kinds of vegetables. We don't need to buy any vegetables in spring, summer, and autumn in the market at all. And we feed 8 cows to help us work. My parents don't know how they can do this if they live in a public building. The farmers are working together to protect their land and their houses. They decided to go protest in front of the government. They wanted to get more compensation. Sometimes the government gives the leaders more compensation to corrupt them and made it go smoothly. Weaker people get less money. If people have a relationship with someone in the government, they will get more money or compensation. Their neighbors knew their secret, but they can't do anything. We also feel incapable because of the change of the climate. We have no way to change it. Now we have to face this difficult situation. When I was little, there was a river near our village, and the water was very clean and the river was full and huge. I don't know when it started, but the river became smaller and dry. and now we can't use the river to irrigate our fields. A big chemical factory has been built in a village near our home. The farmers who live near the factory don't dare open their windows. The smell of the factory is terrible. A lot of farmers die of cancer in this village, including some young farmers. It is difficult to find bread for these villagers' young male farmers. When a girl's parents hear the young man's village name, they will refuse the marriage because they don't want their daughter to have a baby with birth defects. In fact, a lot of young people have left that village and gone to the city to find a job because of pollution. Facing pollution, some farmers choose to protest and some farmers choose to leave. One time we used the black water to irrigate. And when I irrigated and wiped, I was very worried that the black water will kill our cotton. The black water is because a chemical company is causing pollution in the water. Luckily, my cotton was okay, but in another village, the plants died. The villagers grabbed the dead plants and cried in the field. They couldn't live without money for a year. The villagers who were victims held a meeting. Some village men went to the factory and they asked the factory to pay them what they had lost. The factory said, "Why do you use the river? It's not our responsibility." The villagers had another meeting and they went to court and they won. They got the factory to pay them 1 year's money.
Thank you, Shumin, for that presentation. It just shows us what goes on in one country also goes on in another country. I'd like to introduce to you Claire, and she's from Winvisible, Women with Visible and Invisible Disabilities. Claire?
Hi, everybody. I want to talk first about the Bhopal tragedy, and I hope the Indian sisters here will forgive me for saying stuff they might be familiar with. In 1984, a pesticide factory in Bhopal in India exploded, and it was the world's worst industrial disaster. 25,000 people have died, and about 500,000 people are affected. And the gas which exploded was 6 times stronger than what the Nazis used in the gas chambers. Since then, non-violent direct action by the community in Bhopal, petitions, letters and videos spread by the internet have gathered international pressure and have put chemical weapons manufacturer Dow Chemical in the news. Dow, responsible for Agent Orange and napalm in the Vietnam War, the naked little girl with a burnt back running away from the bombed village, is perhaps the worst among Olympic sponsor companies whose names are notorious. Oil polluter BP, mining company RTZ, which is supplying copper for the medals. Women gas survivors have led the struggle to beat Dow with a broom and win proper compensation, resources for daily life and justice in the courts. Devastated by the tragedy, women are the carers keeping families together, trying to comfort their affected children in pain at night, struggling to get clean water. Women became the family breadwinners after men died. Some were placed in government jobs such as making stationery. They fought for and won pay equity against being paid less as disabled workers while working as long and productively as the others. The media have pretended the tragedy is old news and Dow has no liability as they bought out the original company in 2001, but the effects have never stopped. Dow refuses to clean up the factory, so when it rains, poisons wash into the water supply. Children and young people born disabled are the new generation of Bhopali survivor activists, and recently they've mobilised Indian athletes to press the Indian Olympic authorities into a partial boycott of the opening ceremony and the other official proceedings. And here we've worked with the Bhopal campaign to inform people, gather support from disability activists. We demonstrated on the anniversary, 3rd of December, at the Olympic Park. In March we took part in a die-in and petition hand-in to the London Olympic Committee, which was held at the Deloitte building in the city. This opposition to Dow has combined with opposition to another sponsor company, Atos, a French multinational IT company, which is basically a data processing company. And there's a combination of the government pressure to cut welfare and corporate greed, which means that Atos has the government contract for testing people's eligibility for disability benefits, and employs doctors and nurses to throw sick and disabled people off benefit. It was the Labour government who abolished the idea of incapacity for work in 2007. They said it was patronising to dismiss disabled people as incapable, and they brought in work conditions for all claimants, the same ones that Kim was describing earlier about mothers and other carers having to attend work-focused interviews. And now the government test says that if you use a wheelchair or crutches, you can mobilise, and that's the same as able to walk. And in general, they're using equality to abolish disability provision all round. Terminally ill people are found fit for work, and 32 people a week die while under the compulsory getting yourself back to work interviews and courses. And with the pressure of daily life, it's women who are the majority with mental health problems. I think with the guys, they tend to end up in prison, and women tend to end up in psychiatric hospital. I think that's quite how it goes. So there is a UK-wide network of claimant activists, people affected, bereaved relatives. There's all kinds of websites. People are taking action locally, invading the local offices. There was an action by Occupy Newcastle on Thursday where they went into the local Atos office. And last year we mobilised over 100 groups and medical professionals to press the British Medical Journal Group and the Royal College of Nursing to break their business connection with Atos, and the fact that they their websites recruit doctors and nurses for Atos. There's all kind of self-help information. The Nottingham group has produced this pamphlet, which is available online, which has self-help information, and we are helping people to get accepted for benefit without having to go for the examinations.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for that presentation.